movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom, he's gonna let you know if you should stay home or if you should go. Might even yell if it's a spectacle. From San Francisco to Long Island, 'cause nothing's better than a motion video.
It's Movie Time is produced and hosted by John DeSando. Listen to broadcast shows Fridays at 4:01 and 8:01 p.m. Read reviews and listen to shows online at WCBE.org.
And I'm Wayne the Screamer Miller.
And I'm Beth Miller.
Bethy, it is so good to have you here, and that I'm hosting the show. You know, you're one of my favorite relatives, as you always point out to me. But also, I feel kind of responsible for helping you become one of the loving horror movies and thriller movies as you do. What do you think about this one?
I actually really enjoyed Scream 7. I mean, I kind of enjoy all the Scream movies. I mean, they have they're kind of the same thing, but a little bit different.
Yeah, and and we'll have a lot to say about it because, the two of us could go on and on and on, so maybe we'll have like a 10-hour mini-series based on our movie review. But really what interested me about this one was a little bit what I read before seeing about some of the controversy behind it. Because two of the main stars of Scream 6, Jenna Ortega, who I liked, and the actress who played her sister in the movie, Melissa Barria, were supposed to be in Scream 7, but they weren't. Because Melissa was fired by the studio for inappropriate comments on Facebook or whatever, social media, about Gaza and all going on in the Mideast. But then Jenna Ortega supposedly said she couldn't do it, and the director dropped out. But what had me fascinated about Scream 7 is the return of Neve Campbell's character, Sidney Prescott.
Exactly.
And she, because of a salary dispute, wasn't in Scream 6.
I didn't know any of this,
Well, that's why I'm here. So what do you think about her return to the franchise that she was part of for so long?
I'm really glad to see her back. I don't know if it's Neve or Nev or how you pronounce her first name,
Yeah.
but I loved her in the first one. I'm actually just a big fan of hers overall in her film work. But I like the fact that she's back in Scream 7, kind of like the little string that ties them all together and bring her back in the Scream 7.
Right. Which, basically kind of remains of one of the ones, of course, there's been clips of some of the former people from the original, what I call the original 4 Scream movies. Thing of it is, during the podcast, we'll probably talk more about some similar films, series or franchises like Scream, but also some of the more kind of history behind some of the filmmaking. But I was glad to see her part of this, and the only one that's been a constant throughout all the Screams has been Courtney Cox.
Gail Weathers.
Yes. And what'd you think about her?
I'm glad of her return. I mean, I think she's a great character as far as kind of unlikable but likable all at the same time. I always like it when they bring back the original cast into the later series, so the later shows. So I was really glad to see Ned back and also see Courtney Cox back.
Right. And, in a way, one of the things that really kind of made this, and of course, we don't want to go much into the plot because the plots are usually the same with all the movies. Right. Anyhow, you get these teenagers or young people that are going to be knocked off one by one, throughout the movie. But what's interesting about these Scream movies that I always thought was the whole way that they, especially the very first one, that people loved it because of all the movie references, trivia type of things they would do, and really kind of tested my knowledge, of movies of that ilk. But how they would bring back in the movies some of the characters, for maybe some cameos or clips or whatever. And I'm always interested because of the married couple and then divorced, but still would be in Scream together, David Arquette and
really like
Courtney Cox, which in the credits and the first Scream was Courtney Cox Arquette, and
yes,
stuff.
Exactly.
So as far as a horror movie, how do you think it really kind of holds up as far as scaring you? But also along with that, if you could say, if there's any surprises that you could, that when you were watching it.
I think Scream's good for like the jump scares and just like the terror, from Ghostface and the slasher, like that kind of, the whole genre. It doesn't have like any kind of sci-fi or horror elements to it that I usually prefer, but it's a typical slasher. I don't think I was surprised by anything. I mean, I think they kind of have all the same thing, whether it's not like a villain you're against, it's a group of people and it's kind of a whodunit within each show, who's the killer within this one, which I really enjoy.
Now, when you were reading my notes, I was going to say the same thing because
No, I didn't.
because what this one reminds me, the whole series reminds me more of not they always talk about it's like Halloween or Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. But those characters, you knew who the characters were,
Right.
And they also had kind of like a almost supernatural element to them, that they would still be alive, that they would come back for multiple sequels. Whereas this one's a little bit more, to me, like another. When I taught a film class, I'd call it a teeny bopper slasher a movie,
Right.
that you don't know it's a whodunit really. And that's really kind of the surprise element in these movies at the end, who the person is. And more like I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was a good example of that
Right.
type of movie, but there's only been about 3 of them, those type of movies. But the thing of it is, and several reviews that I've read kind of state the same thing. In the past movies, about who was behind Ghostface, or the number of people behind Ghostface,
Right.
that were usually surprises. And this, which was really kind of cool. This and several other critics agree with me. The big surprise was underwhelming. Who the murderer was.
I agree. I mean, I kind of think with all the series, you have a group of people, probably 1 or 2 of them, or at least 1 or 2 of them, maybe 3 of them are the killer and are behind Ghostface. So every show, it's a different killer. And in this one, I was kind of underwhelmed.
And I kind of thought it was kind of like, I don't want to give it away, but I will. What the heck? The motive, because sometimes it's kind of like, why was somebody knocking off all these kids and tormenting Sidney Prescott? That the motive behind it. And here the motive was kind of like, okay. But they said it was kind of an inside joke because Scream 6, Nev Campbell wasn't in it because of a salary dispute. And a lot of fans did not like that. One of the ghost faces in this one, that's why she was tormenting Sidney Prescott, is because she wasn't around to help the other people in Scream 6. And also Scream 6 was relocated to New York City, which I kind of liked.
And I actually didn't see that one, and they make reference about the movie, like, you weren't there, and Nev apologizes to Courtney Cox, I wasn't there in New York, sorry about that. So they do the tie-in,
Yes.
which I enjoy when they kind of have this, Scream, they hook them all together. They connect them all, even though they have kind of a similar but different plot.
Well, and we talk about villains in these movies, and one of the most memorable ones from the very first Scream was Matthew Lillard's character,
Yes.
Stu Macher. And here, the very first murder takes place in his old house that had turned into some sort of horror Airbnb,
Which I loved. I like the whole thing that this is a movie, but within it there's another movie. They talk
Yes.
about Stab, which is the remake of the Scream 1 plot, and they have like Scream 5 and Scream 6, Stab 6, Stab 5. They can go through the whole thing, multiple series from the Stab movies.
And that's the only thing that sometimes I don't like about these franchises, is that you almost have to see some of the early ones to understand all the references involved in it. In the very first Scream, which we're talking about like 30 years ago, I believe. in
Like
96.
25, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because there were 3 that came out right in a row, in 96, and Scream 2 in 97, and the third one in 2000. But then they did a 11-year layover, and Scream 4 came out, and it was a big deal bringing back a lot of the original cast. But, you know, sometimes it's kind of like, I like sometimes movies that are one-offs, that you don't have to worry about all this knowledge. And what made the original Scream so good was that it played into that. You know, it played into the whole thing about movie knowledge, especially horror movie knowledge and stuff like that, that I enjoy. But it's, as they've gone along, I feel like it's gotten a little bit more too convoluted.
I agree. I like the whole idea of the horror Airbnb, like to come back and stay there. But if you don't know the reference from the original movie, you're kind of lost during that scene about like where the people died and who died and how they got killed and that.
And I can see that you wanting to stay in one of those R&Bs or whatever.
Yeah, I would totally stay in a horror Airbnb.
Well, Beth, we'll have more, obviously, to talk about in our podcast. And so, anyhow, what would you say to the average film goer about going to this?
I still think it's a good shot. I mean, like I've mentioned before, I kind of have a low bar about what is considered a good horror movie for me. So I still think it's enjoyable. I still think anybody that likes the Scream series should still go see it. I think there are still some jump scares, and it's still an enjoyable film. Even though it's not that great, I still think it's still enjoyable, and I would still recommend this.
Great. I agree.
It's movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom. He's gonna let you know if you should stay home or if you should go. Might even yell if it's a spectacle. From San Francisco to Long Island.